You ever finish a track that sounds incredible, but then the next one you make just doesn't hit the same way? Like one week your mix feels polished and powerful, and the next it's flat and muddy or just not up to par. It's frustrating, right? You put in the same hours, you use the same plugins, but the results feel completely random. And if this happens to you, you're not alone. In fact, this inconsistency is one of the biggest struggles I see in electronic producers. So today, we're going to talk about why that happens and how the pros avoid it. And by the end of this episode, you're going to know the real secret to making every track come out at a consistent pro-level quality. Not just every now and then, but every single time. But why listen to me? Well, I've toured 33 countries, had multiple number ones on Beatport, signed hundreds of records to the world's top labels like Armada, Spinnin', Toolroom, Defected, as Bass Kleph and Analog Soul. And since 2016, I've been helping producers like you finish great songs fast and get a pro sound. Yes, you're listening to episode 43 of Producer Talk with Bass Kleph, and let's get right into it. Now, as you're listening to today's episode, I want you to think about the last 3 tracks that you did. Did they all sound equally polished, or was there one way ahead of the others? Drop me a comment down below if you're on YouTube. I'd love to hear how consistent your results have been feeling lately. So when it comes to getting repeatable, excellent results, a lot of people are under the impression that the reason they can't get it, well, the reason others can as well, is that they think those other people, those pro engineers, have magic ears, like some kind of special, innate, natural talent that they can hear something that us regular people can't, right? That they're hearing this magical thing and that it's out of our reach, that it's something we can't achieve, and we're basically just held back by genetics. Now, while some people do naturally have slightly better hearing than others, in general, this whole thing is just not true. You can absolutely 100% train your ears and they do become better at listening and at mixing. But that's still not all of it. That's still not the main thing. The real reason these pros are getting great results is not just their ears, whether they were born with it or they trained them or a combination of both. It's the fact that they're using a system. They're approaching their mixdowns in a certain way and following a certain system that basically makes it impossible for them to make mistakes. They know exactly what they should be doing at every stage of the process. They know what's coming next. They know when to reach for a certain tool, when to use it, and when to not use it. Very importantly, they know how to check their work. They know if they're getting closer to what they're aiming for. Oh, and actually, they know what they're aiming for as well. They have that clear in their mind and physically clear in front of them in their reference tracks, and I suppose on their analyzers. So the way you hear things is actually just one part of it, and I'd say it's probably even the smaller part of it. I think a mix engineer with average ears who has a great system is going to do a much better job on their mix down than a mix engineer with great ears and no system at all. And on top of that, the one with the system is going to get much more repeatable, consistent results. Absolutely. So if you're worried that you think your ears are not naturally good enough and you're never going to be able to hear this stuff you hear people talking about, trust me, you're totally fine. You will get there. That's not the thing you need to focus on. The system is more important. I know of myself, I wasn't born with amazing ears for mixing or something. I still remember back in the day when I was in my rock band before I was in dance music and mixing and any of that kind of stuff. And I remember our producer being in the studio when we were recording and calling out certain frequencies and telling the guy behind the desk and saying, yeah, I think we need a bit more 1K in the toms, talking about the toms in my drum kit. And I remember thinking, I was young, I was like 17 or something, and thinking, you can't just hear a certain frequency and just call that out. You can't just buy that number. I thought he was making stuff up, right? I thought he's trying to show off or something. And I can guarantee you absolutely can do that. And I feel like these days I do that with even way more precision. And I teach my students how to do the same thing too. I see people go from not being able to hear these things to clearly being able to hear these things all the time once they've been shown the right way to do it. And I would even say that the best way to train them is to be following a good system like this, because it does force you to figure out what you're aiming for, know what that is, and check your work along the way. And all of this trains your ears, teaches them to listen more deeply and to know what they're listening for. But hey, you might be thinking, how come some people just get lucky once in a while? You might have had a couple of great mixes here and there and a couple of bad ones too. You might know a friend of yours that's essentially a beginner and absolutely nailed at least one of their tracks. Kind of by accident, probably. Because without a method, without a system, often the next one, or many of them, start collapsing. The results don't come out as good. Or they take a really long time. Or they take a long time and they're bad. And often every mix feels like you're kind of starting from scratch. Do you know that feeling? It can be exhausting and demoralizing, demotivating. You get to the point where you finish writing the song and you're thinking, oh, gotta mix it now. Back to that complicated thing that doesn't quite make sense. That elusive enigma, that ambiguous thing where you're just kind of turning knobs and tweaking settings for hours and you're not quite sure if it's getting better or not. Now, that's not the way it should be, and it's not the way it has to be. When you do have a system like we're talking about, everything comes together and everything becomes clear. You know what you're aiming for and how to do it, and you actually have a great time. And you'll find you'll start looking forward to mixing and really enjoying it. In fact, many of my students who are music producers who I've taught how to mix, they take on mixing clients now for other people, and they love it. They do mixing on the side and earn money from that while they're working on their own music as well. But yeah, like I was saying, it is totally possible that every now and then, even a complete beginner could accidentally nail a mix. Or maybe if you've been working for a while, you might still find that some of your mixes turn out amazing, but not all of them. And it's not really worth it if you can only do it sometimes. And if you can only do it fast enough sometimes. What really makes it powerful, what really makes it pro, and what really helps you grow as a mix engineer and get better and better skills over time, get faster and faster results, is the ability to do it consistently. And like I said, you can't do that without a good system. So yeah, consistency is what we're after here. This is the main thing. We want to be able to rely on this and know that it's going to work each time, hit our deadlines, finish tracks, and actually enjoy the process. But what does that actually mean, consistency? Because it's not perfection, it's repeatability. It's knowing that your workflow will always get you to a pro-sounding result. And I think importantly, and an amazing bonus of it, is that it removes second guessing and endless tweaking. Two of the things most producers hate the most about mixing or about producing in general. I hear people complaining all the time, oh, I've been endlessly tweaking this thing. It's taking forever. I wrote the song in about an hour. Why am I spending 2 weeks trying to finish the mix? And then your friends will be asking you, when's that track coming out? I wonder if can you relate to this? Have you ever had this experience? You go, oh, that new song you started when I was over at your house, when's that one coming out? Oh, I haven't finished it. But what do you mean? But I saw you write it in about an hour or two. Yeah, but I'm just still tweaking a few things on the mix. Does that sound familiar? Because it doesn't have to actually be that way. I used to be like that too, a long time ago before I learned how to do this stuff properly. So I can relate. I understand the frustration when you're sitting there thinking, how come I wrote this so fast and why is it taking me so long to wrap this all up? I imagine how many songs I could get done if I could do this process quickly. And I also know those moments where I'd be sitting there endlessly tweaking something like a snare drum or a vocal or something, and I don't know, you get lost in it for like an hour or two or something. This is back before I had a system. And then at the end of the session, I'm going to have a listen and check everything out. And I'm like, I don't actually know if this is any better or not. I'm not sure. Can you relate? So you spend all this time and you don't even know if it's getting closer to what you're trying to achieve. Now, this never happens to me anymore. And it doesn't have to happen to you as well. If you're currently going through this, it's not your fault. You just haven't been shown the right system. Or maybe you haven't been shown a system at all. Like if the way you approach mixing is open up your DAW, start playing the song, the first thing you hear that seems like it's got a problem, you just go and start working on that, well then that's reactive mixing. That's the opposite of following a system. That's just working on the first thing you hear, not because it's the best thing to be working on at that moment. And this kind of reactive mixing leads us to end up kind of chasing our tail. We end up going in circles. You work on one thing and that affects something else, and then you need to work on that. A few more things, and before you know it, you're back at that first thing again. Sound familiar? You kind of feel like you have to double back and do things twice, 3 times, maybe more. Well, with the right system, that doesn't happen. You just go straight through on a straight line. So let's talk about how pros guarantee consistency. And I can tell you this one for a fact, they do not rely on guesswork. They do all have some kind of a system. They're not sitting there thinking, oh, what if we throw this plugin on? Or what if we change that? Or maybe we should work on this thing first or whatever. No, they're confident, they make confident moves, and they know exactly what they're doing in that moment and what they're going to do next. They don't even have to think about it. It's like subconscious, built into their back of their mind. It's kind of like, you know, when you're driving home from somewhere, I don't know, the shops or something that you go to often, you don't have to look up a map for it. You don't have to really even think about it that consciously. You just know, you know the way because you have the path in front of you. And it can be the same with a system where you can just sort of relax and it's just almost on autopilot in a way. But the great thing is that frees up your mind to do other things like be creative within that path, within that system. So while you're following that standard system that gets you from A to B, from unmixed to mixed, your mind is free to be creative and to see the bigger picture and to really feel the emotion of the song and make sure you're tapping into that and achieving the best mix possible. You're not worried about, are you doing something wrong, or what plugin should you load next, or did you remember to do that thing that somebody on YouTube told you that you always have to do? No, you're not thinking about that. You're just following the steps and enjoying yourself. Because this is what pros do. They have this clear step-by-step process for every mixdown. And this is what gives them confidence in their mixdown. And this is why it seems like they do have confidence when you watch professionals mix. This comes from knowing what to do in what order. There's just no surprises. They know exactly where they're at. They're not getting lost on the way home from the shops, basically, you know. They have the map. And when you have the map for mixdown as well too, the path, the system, whatever you want to call it, you will be confident as well. So yeah, a great mixdown is always great. But if you can only do it sometimes, yeah, that's not so great, right? Consistency is the real marker of being pro, not flashy plugins or gear, or only getting one good mixdown every 6 months or something. It's being able to sit down anytime for any song and make it sound great, make it sound professional, do an incredible mixdown that musically and emotionally complements the song. Something that turns heads, something that gets the attention of A&Rs, fans, listeners, and where people just go, ooh, sounds good. Sounds like the way you hear the song in your head, but coming back out of the speakers. And I think that's what we all deserve. That's what we're all craving. Until you can get to that point, I remember I used to crave that until I could do that as well. And it's such a satisfying feeling when you know that whatever you're working on, whatever you're writing in those early stages, the sketch stages, you can feel confident and think, I know this is going to sound pro by the time it's done. I have complete faith, complete confidence. It's just a step. It's just a task and a fun one too. And something I look forward to each time and enjoy. So here's the thing. If your mixes feel hit or miss, it's not because you lack talent. It's not because there's something wrong with your ears. As in, it's not because you weren't born with magical enough ears. No, not at all. It's because you don't yet have a repeatable system that forces consistency. Now, once you have that, every track can reach a pro level, not just the lucky ones. And that's exactly why I built Pro Sound Secrets. Now, inside this course, I give you the complete mixdown system that I've used for over 20 years to make tracks sound consistently pro. Now, this is the same system I've used on records I've signed to Armada, Toolroom, Defected, and even ones that hit #1 on Beatport multiple times. And it's the same framework that my students use to finally get that consistent pro sound too. But here's the thing, spots are extremely limited. I only take on 10 students at a time because we do weekly group coaching calls and I want to make sure everybody gets proper feedback and personal attention. That way I can guarantee that every student makes real progress. And that's also why the course tends to sell out quickly. So if you want the chance to join, the best move is to get on the waitlist now. It's completely free to join and people on the waitlist always get first access when enrollment opens. And if you wait until after, you might miss your spot. So go sign up today at basskleph.com/PSS. That's basskleph.com/PSS. And if you're curious about how my system actually works, check out this video on screen now. In it, I'm going to break down the full framework behind Pro Sound Secrets, and you'll also get a free checklist to start using the method right away. It's the perfect next step if you want a taste of what the course will give you.